Joining me right now is Kaitlin Young. She will be returning to MMA competition on August 12th at RIZIN 12 versus King Reina. How you doing, Kaitlin?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Thank you for your time. I know it's kind of early out there.
Yeah, it's okay. I've been up for a while, so no big deal.
All right. Now, on top of Muay Thai, you have been keeping yourself busy the last couple of years as the matchmaker for Invicta FC. How rewarding is it to be a part of such a respected organization?
It's pretty incredible. It's it's been great working with the athletes and then also working under Shannon Knapp, who's been in the business a very long time. And it's been fun kind of seeing it first as an athlete for Invicta and then on the other side of the table. So it's really been awesome, and it's, I think, helped my understanding of the fight industry in general quite a bit.
Many people think that you just pick fighters and they fight you, but there's a lot that goes into the job. What obstacles did you face or do you face while putting matchups together?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of matchmaking is putting out fires. There are injuries, pregnancies, all kinds of stuff. And it's just a part of the job. So you get used to it and having to problem solve. But that's actually also what makes it fun, in a sense, is, okay, how can we fix this issue or this problem? What options do we have? And that's kind of the part that makes it interesting, I suppose.
Well, you're in the middle of camp right now, and there's an Invicta event very soon. So it must be very hectic for you to be at practice and getting phone calls. And how do you handle all of that? How do you balance that out?
Sometimes, well, we're lucky. We do have like a really solid team at Invicta. So if somebody's tied up with something, other people help, and that they've certainly helped me, like when I'm preparing for a fight. Oddly, usually fight week is a little bit more quiet for us. It's the hubbub is before. Last week we had a couple fighters that were injured, unfortunately. So it's finding replacements and all the communication and that sort of thing, and is the biggest deal. But it's part of the reason I like to practice so early in the morning, is by the time everyone else is up, I'm done and available usually.
You were spotted at the Tough 28 tryouts. When did you decide to make your comeback?
It's something I had been thinking about for a while, and it's starting to get more and more difficult to get Muay Thai fights. Here in the States, there really aren't a lot of opportunities or a lot of women doing it, and the cost to bring somebody in can be prohibitive at times. So I think really I had kind of been tossing around the idea in someday I'll probably come back to MMA sort of way. And then about 2 weeks before my last Muay Thai fight, I heard that they were doing 145 tryouts. I was like, well, this is it. Especially, as you had mentioned, working with Invicta, there aren't a lot of organizations I would like to fight for that aren't either, a conflict. Obviously, I'm working there, so that would be a conflict. So UFC was one of the options.
The fight that you're going to compete in against King Reina was announced before the roster for the next season was released. Did you have a feeling that the show was not in your future?
Yeah. Yeah, they had only asked. I didn't actually end up even staying after the first day. The tryout went well, but I think they were looking for some specific things. It was kind of interesting who they decided to take, but it's good television is what they're after for sure. So
yes, that is the word. Interesting who they picked.
Yeah, exactly. I had a pretty good idea that, okay, moving on. This is
in another interview, you stated that you really hit your stride. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
I just, to sum it up, I'm in a very different place mentally. I'm older, I'm more experienced, and I've had consistently for a long time now the sort of performances I want to have, and I haven't. I think it's really easy, especially early on, to let certain things, bother you, injuries, you're sick or whatever, and getting to a point where it all doesn't matter. I still fight to my ability that day every time. And that's where I feel like I am today.
In the time away from the cage, were you always training the other aspects of MMA, or were you solely focused on Muay Thai?
I was solely focused on Muay Thai, but I would like to add a caveat to that. And then Muay Thai with full clinch is not as far away from MMA as people often think, I think.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The throws, it's pretty crazy. Like,
right. It's
yeah.
stand-up grappling.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
A lot of things
I was in Thailand not too long ago, and
Oh, okay. So where'd you go?
Yeah. I went to Phuket, Bangkok, the normal spots.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So, going there and watching that, you realize more clearly that there's a lot of grappling going on in the stand-up clinch.
Absolutely. So it's interesting. What's really fascinating that I wasn't expecting is how it's still, the clinch is still like a grappling sort of conditioning, and how that has felt very different, because we clinch frequently, daily when we were getting ready for Thai boxing fight. So yeah, there's been more overlap than I even had anticipated.
Almost 4 years you've been absent from MMA competition. You chose RIZIN. Why the Japanese promotion all the way across the planet?
Oh, I really do think it's almost every fighter's dream to fight in Japan at one point. Every great fighter has had a time in Japan, a time period where they were fighting in Japan, no matter where they end up, right? So I'd always wanted to go to Japan. My manager had fought over there quite a bit, Nick the Goat Thompson. He fought in Sengoku and a couple of other organizations, and it's something I've always wanted to experience for myself. I hear it's amazing. I hear the fans are awesome. So it was one, and I knew they were promoting a young woman who was about my size. So it was one that was definitely on my radar when I was thinking about coming back to MMA.
How did this fight with Reina get put together though? Like, did they contact you, or were you more, in contact with them?
Yeah, I reached out to Shingo. And,
directly?
Yep.
Oh, so you've had a relationship with Shingo then?
Interestingly, I think we were just Facebook friends, and I just reached out and asked for his email, and then I sent him an email about it. So.
Well, it shows you, hey, you could get a fight. You just got to reach out.
Right. Got to be willing, right?
Exactly. How long has your training camp been? And was it a struggle to get your body adjusted to the wear and tear of, training multiple times a day, wrestling, and all those other, aspects?
No, when I'm getting ready for Thai boxing fights, I was training, I had a very heavy training load. So that has not been super different, really. It's different in that I'm obviously grappling on the ground and whatnot, but as far as the training load, it's been about the same. I've been fortunate to be very, very active the last couple of years. A lot of my fights had been overseas, but I had been there was a period there where I was fighting, 7 or 8 times a year or so, right around there. So with that, you just kind of keep rolling.
Speaking of, going overseas, are you used to, going to different time zones, and do you adjust quickly to the atmosphere when you get to another country?
Yes. I've had several fights that way. I like to sleep on sort of a dual schedule. I believe Nagoya is about 14 hours ahead of us. Yes. So it won't be crazy different than when I've gone to fight in Thailand. But I usually like to sleep for a few hours at night and a few hours during the day in between because I train in the morning and evening. And I've found that is really helpful when going to fight in Europe or Asia, because, whenever you would fight, there would have been a training time around that time anyway in your own schedule. So luckily I've been on that for some years now, that type of sleep and training schedule.
What has been the focus of your training camp?
You know, I'm working in phases on this one, but you know, obviously, like getting back on the ground and just you know, becoming familiar with it again. Though that was really my goal almost immediately after my last bout, which was May 12th. It's just okay, you know, getting back into the MMA groove, so to speak, but with some new tools.
You fought many of your fights at bantamweight, but this fight coming up is closer to featherweight. What are the advantages you see in yourself at 65 kg or featherweight?
So I've been fighting over about 140 or over the last few years. When I was, you know, 21 years old, it was a little easier to make the lighter weight, and it does get more difficult as you get older. That said, I think there is a muscle mass element there. You also hit harder in your 30s. So I think for me it'll be good. I'll go in feeling healthy and strong. I was doing a pretty sizable weight cut to hit 135, even at that young age. I mean, I would be, you know, between 147 and 149 on the Monday before making weight on Friday. So I'm walking a little heavier, but not crazy heavier. So I think I'll actually probably be feeling stronger than I ever did at bantamweight.
Do you feel like you're hitting the hardest now in your career?
Absolutely. For sure. Like without a doubt.
King Reina, she's an interesting character in the Japanese MMA scene.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure you've seen the videos and her skull, you know, her look and her demeanor. What are your thoughts on her as an opponent?
I loved the giant lollipop and the photo at the press conference. We were cracking up over that. You know, I think she's talented and she's young. You know, and there are things that can be taken advantage of when you fight a young person, and benefits they have to being young. But you know, I think it'll be a fun fight.
Definitely. Do you have anything planned? You know, she has the lollipop. Do you have anything?
You know, what's funny is you know, I'm known as the Striking Viking, and I have this beautiful custom Viking axe that was made for me by Cold Steel Knives, but I don't think there's any way I'm going to get on the plane with that. So we'll see what I can come up with. I'm still working on it.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the face-off with her with the lollipop and you with the axe or something. That'll be awesome.
Right.
On paper, people are going to look at this matchup and say, hey, it's a striker versus a grappler. Do you agree with this notion?
In terms of our strong suits, yes. But I've been, apart from Thai boxing, I did jiu-jitsu 8 years outside of that. So I don't know that somebody who's done jiu-jitsu 8 years is a non-grappler.
Yeah. With the win at RIZIN 12, what do you prove to yourself? I know you don't have nothing to prove to anybody else, but what do you prove to yourself?
There's some changes I've made in my game and performances that I want to prove to myself that I can transfer to MMA. And that's what's on the line for me here.
All right, August 12th, RIZIN 12. Kaitlin Young will face King Reina.
I'm very excited. I think we'll put on a great show for them.
All right, thank you for your time, Kaitlin.
Thank you so much.